welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Jo Stanley, and it's a delight to be with you, Luke Darcy, Jacqui Felgate, Dr. Nick Carr. And what about autumn? We are well and truly in it with these beautiful leaves falling and the dappled light. I do love it.
I don't mind it either. We're not too far from summer, and it's that kind of year where you can wear a coat like you are today, but you don't actually need the thermals yet.
I love summer, Jack. Give me that every time of the year, but also like the change of seasons and what it does to affect the way we dress and the way we live and even the way we eat.
And it might also determine how long we live, Darcy, because there was a study out of the US, a journal of aging research, which showed that people who are born in autumn maybe live longer. But there are other studies showing that maybe spring or summer is an advantage. So I reckon it doesn't matter which season you're born in, we're just lucky to be alive.
Well, it's true, but it's an important piece of information you bring, Dr. Nick, because today's show is all about stages of life, from the support of a doula during pregnancy or to how music is helping make senior years more golden.
And Jo, we've got young drivers under the spotlight. We catch up with a group of truck drivers keen for more education on our roads.
And the experts weigh in on tween skincare and why young kids are trying adult skincare routines.
And I take a look at Growing Pains, not the 80s sitcom, but that very real, but the very real problem that is a major cause of angst for children and parents.
Well, one thing that unites generations is music, which is why a program called Embrace is placing emerging musos into aged care so that wisdom can inspire the next generation of music.
I've done something that I've never done my whole life, and that's write a song. And it's just something I wanted to do.
I was finishing high school and I heard about it through a friend who's an artist, and just it sounded like a great opportunity. It sounded like my skills were perfect for it. You know, it's just hanging out with people and making music. It's, you know, it doesn't get much better. It was really lovely. It was like having 100 more grandparents, which was nice. Yeah, they're all easygoing and really lovely people. And obviously you have to adapt to certain people with disabilities as they get older. Like some people can't move much and some people can't talk, but I loved like getting the experiences and interacting with all these people.
My name is Charlie Farmer. I'm 32 years old and I've just spent the last 5 weeks at Rossitano House completing a creative residency in aged care.
We bring musicians who are under the age of 35, emerging to mid-career musicians, and give them the opportunity to undertake a full-time residency within an aged care facility. The musicians are paid, they're professionally engaged, and along the way they undertake a professional development series that supports them in this undertaking, and they're tasked with creating new music inspired by, in collaboration with, and in response to the older people who they get to know.
I love it. Okay, so maybe we could start from the start in the love song. When I'm talking to them, the things that stick out are the things that like move them, like things that are obviously very personal experiences. And they often will say a little line and I'll think, oh, actually, I said that to them and I was like, that's it. With that line, we're going to turn that into a song. We're going to base it off that. And I like what you said about the, or so he says, with the love at first sight. Like you go, love at first sight, so he says. I'd often come back from like an hour or two long conversation with someone and just write down everything that happened, and things would stick out to me and I'd start noodling on guitar with thinking about that. Or with Marilyn and John, for example, we would just sit down and start writing the song together, which was really fun, which is different.
One of the things that I didn't expect to experience was to meet someone whose brain processes music the same way as mine did.
The interesting thing about the 4 musicians that we had was that they each collaborated in different ways. So Samuel Stutchbury, who's a classical composer, a young classical composer, he was drawn to people who had musical backgrounds.
So the best bit of feedback I got was from Joan Costa's children, and they were talking about the phone calls that they'd received from her over the last few weeks while I'd been working with her and running music sessions. And I'm quoting, they said, "It feels like we got our mother back," which I think was super sweet.
Ageism is a huge problem in our society. It's one of the least understood of all the prejudices. And one of the things we need to do to combat ageism is have more intergenerational activity, connections, but also bring older people, their stories, their very diverse experiences and stories into the limelight and celebrate them. And that's what this program does.
Then the wind blows. I sing the song, bursts a new growth. One of the men I've been getting to know actually plays harmonica, but he didn't want to say that, but his wife visited and told me that he's got a harmonica in his room and he was very shy about it. I would love to capture that.
All 4 of our musicians said that they learnt new skills on this program, that they developed a deeper understanding of life with dementia, they developed a deeper understanding of what it meant to be an older person, and all 4 of our musicians said that they also increased their personal and creative confidence as well.
You crossed the floor as you had a hard call.
You know, how we treat older people now, how we treat those in aged care, the value we place on the quality of aged care is how we will be treated when we're older, and the type of care we will receive. And we need to make changes on the ground so that people living in aged care are treated with respect, with dignity.
As it went along. I came back on Christmas Day to say hi to them all. I brought them cards and things, and I've been back for a sing-along, and I'm going back this month. Yeah, it's nice to see them. It's lovely to talk to them, and we reminisce about the 5 weeks. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I thought it would be great, but I didn't think that I'd still have connections with them, and especially making music about it. It's like connecting on a much deeper level than conversation. But yeah, I just enjoyed it a lot, and I want to continue doing things like that.
Joe, the World Happiness Report was released recently with Australia ranking 10th around the globe for happiness, but they dissected the report into different categories as well. And interestingly, in the under 30 category around the globe, there is a significant decrease in happiness for that particular demographic.
It's a tricky one, isn't it, Darcy? You wonder whether that younger generation have more to worry about than the generations that have gone before them. And actually, there have been surveys investigating exactly that, and it's found that Gen Z students, those that are born between 1995 and 2010, are concerned about climate change, and that concern does impact the rest of their life.
Little kids behind us sound pretty happy today, Joe, but 80% of students that were surveyed around the globe cited climate change as something that was causing anxiety and distress. They referenced that sense of not knowing about the future and uncertainty as something that was really affecting their mental health.
And it makes sense, you know, it would affect the choices you make around where you spend your money, your career, even whether you're going to have a family or not.
Growing up's hard, Joe. There's no doubt in my mind. And there's that bit of joy of discovery, but also coming to the realisation that life can be hard at times. So here's Dr. Nick Carr talking about the agony of growing pains.
When our son Simon was 5 or 6 years old, he came into our bedroom one night crying, saying his legs hurt. And he was really distressed, which was very unlike him. Now, it would have been easy to assume that something nasty was going on, but sometimes there's an advantage being a doctor dad, and I realised pretty quickly that what he was experiencing was growing pains. A bit of reassurance, quick leg rub, and within 20 minutes he was fast asleep next to me. So, was he making it up? Well, the answer is a resounding no. While we don't understand what causes growing pains, we do know that the pain is real, and it can be really unpleasant, just like it was with Simon. So, how do you tell growing pains from something more sinister? Well, typical growing pains occur in kids aged 3 to 11, and boys and girls are affected equally. They come on both sides, sometimes in the evening or sometimes waking the child at night. And the pains are in the muscles, not the joints. Importantly, the pain should settle quickly with simple reassurance, a leg rub, and sometimes a bit of pain relief medication. Then, during the day, they should be charging around as if nothing much is wrong because, well, actually, nothing much is wrong. Now, if, on the other hand, the pain is persistent, if it's on one side or it's in the joint or the child is limping, then it's off to the doctor. The same if there are any signs of inflammation anywhere. How do you know if there's inflammation? Well, it's back to my days learning Latin. It's calor, tumor, rubor, and dolor. That's heat, redness, swelling, and pain. Despite the name, the pains aren't actually due to growing. They were first described in 1823 by the French physician Marcel Duchamp. And he didn't know what caused the pains then, and 200 years later, we haven't discovered much. There was an article published in the prestigious World Journal of Orthopedics in 2019, which reviewed 32 papers that looked at the cause of growing pains and concluded, nope, still haven't got a clue. And as for Simon, well, he had a few more episodes, but they seemed to settle quite quickly. It took me a while to realise that his leg pains had now become an excuse to hop into bed with mum and dad and snuggle up, what we call a secondary gain. Might do a segment on that another time. The cure? Well, a quick leg rub, word of reassurance, and then firmly back to his bed. Within a week, no more growing pains.
Coming up, how the lack of experience and confidence of young drivers around heavy vehicles is sparking road safety concerns. That's next on the House of Wellness.
Do you know what I love? It's a road trip. Throwing some bags in the back, hitting the highway, leaving it all behind.
I did one this year with my 17-year-old Will. He's on his learners. We drove from Melbourne to the Gold Coast over 18 hours, which is great because I had him trapped and he actually had to talk to me and had no choice. But you realise how long you have to concentrate for when you've been on the road for that amount of time.
Oh, and those roads can be really hypnotic, can't they? The same scenery, the same road, and Australia's got some long roads, so it's any wonder 1 in 5 accidents are due to driver fatigue.
And Joe, they say that driving after being awake for 24 hours is the equivalent of driving at double the legal alcohol limit, which I find incredible. And now there's a Monash University-led team that have got a simple blood test they've developed that can determine when a driver last slept.
Simply, the test will be able to detect if someone has been awake for more than 24 hours. And just as the alcohol testing has been a game changer for reducing the road toll, hopefully being able to test the fatigue of a driver will make long drives safer for everyone.
Yeah, including for high-risk areas like truck drivers. I've got a lot of admiration for our truckies out there who are doing long haul and the important part they play in the economy. But for inexperienced drivers at times, passing one of those big road trains can be a really challenging experience. With nearly a year of solo driving experience under his belt, 18-year-old Aaron Berman feels pretty relaxed behind the wheel.
I think I've driven in a lot of different areas like the city with left hook turns and out in the country and in suburbs, so I find myself pretty confident.
But when it comes to the rules of the road, there's one area that Aaron admits is a bit of a blind spot.
When I took my L's test and P's test, there wasn't much on driving around trucks.
In fact, no matter what part of the country you learn to drive in, there's no requirement to practice driving around a heavy vehicle before attaining your Australian licence. And according to new research conducted by the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, the resulting knowledge gap is having a serious impact on driver safety.
Late last year, we conducted a survey of around 1,000 young L&P platers, so that 16 to 25-year-old cohort, to get a better understanding of how they felt and what they knew around how to drive safely when sharing the roads with trucks as opposed to cars. Around 90% of those young people actually felt a level of anxiety and nervousness when they were sharing the roads with trucks. And some of that probably comes down to the fact that the survey results also showed around 30% had never had practical experience. So they weren't taught the difference between sharing a road with a truck and a car. Unfortunately, on Australian roads last year, there was 187 lives lost involving an incident between a car and a truck. And what we're finding is around 70% of those serious incidents and fatalities are at the fault of the light vehicle driver. We know that we need to do more when it comes to really getting that education and skill set better for drivers across all demographics, but we really do want to focus on those young drivers first because we know they're vulnerable and we know that we can get in early and change their behaviour.
For experienced truckies like Peter Kelly, it's painfully evident that many motorists haven't been educated on the dangers of driving around heavy vehicles.
Probably on a daily basis, I come into interactions with people who don't know how to drive around trucks. The closest incident that I recall, I was driving on the downslope of the Westgate Bridge, which is quite steep, and it was in sort of peak hour traffic. I had vehicles on my left and vehicles on my right, and all of a sudden the vehicle on my right just changed into my lane, but he was actually going to hit me, and I could see that, and I couldn't stop, and I couldn't move to the left, and it was a real balancing act, and I was on the horn, and how that day I didn't hit this car, I have no idea, but fortunately in the end the driver saw me and moved out of the way, and I reckon it was a split second before I would have cleaned that car up. Hey mate, I'll get you whack that on.
Peter reckons all inexperienced drivers could use a little more perspective when driving around trucks, so he's invited Aaron along for a ride.
Hey Aaron, how you going?
Good. Well, it's a lot bigger than I thought it would be.
Yeah, they are big. They're a lot heavier than most people think they are too. Just before we take off, can you look in the mirrors and tell me if you can see anything behind us?
No, can't see anything.
Nothing at all?
No.
Cool. I'll just get you to jump out. I just want to show you something. Hey mate, I'll get you to jump out and have a look. So if you just come down this way. So from inside the cabin, you couldn't see anything in the mirrors.
Oh yeah.
But right behind us there's a car.
Oh wow, I had no idea. I didn't know that they couldn't see at all. I thought maybe there was a reverse camera that was on at all times. I didn't know that was like that was the blind spot where you can't see your car at all. It was a bit shocking because cars drive like that all the time.
Cool, let's go for a drive, Aaron.
All right, I'm ready. Yep.
So when you're out and about on the road, the main thing that drivers need to be aware of is that trucks need more distance to stop. So we're telling road users, give a truck 3 to 4 times more space than you would a car. So that includes if you're overtaking a truck, make sure when you're coming back in front of that truck, you can see the truck's headlights in your rearview mirror and that you've given them that 3 to 4 times more space than you would a car.
So how hard is it to turn?
Look, turning's not too bad. They just take up a lot of space. So that's why on the back of trucks you'll see do not overtake turning vehicles, because we often need 2 lanes. The problem is if we're turning left and we move right over to the right, people will come up on our left-hand side. And then if we stick too far to the left, people will come up on our right-hand side. So we try and find the sweet spot.
Another key factor that we're telling drivers is don't overtake a turning truck. So making sure that if you see a truck and it's about to go around a roundabout or turn a corner, that you're not trying to use that opportunity to weave in front of that truck or dash in front of it to get past it.
After this, I reckon there should be more education on driving around trucks because there's a lot I didn't know, and I feel like everyone needs to know that.
Yeah, I guess for parents that are teaching their kids to drive, they should actually encourage the learner driver to drive around trucks. So they're driving around trucks while the parent is in the car with them and hopefully getting some experience and some confidence about being around trucks, because the worst thing you can do is to shield your children while you're teaching them to drive, and then they have no experience around trucks, and then when they're out by themselves, they have to learn on the job, so to speak.
So, Dr. Nick, you know those foods that look like one thing, but they actually taste like another? For example, you see the hot dog on the plate, you think it's going to be savoury, but it's actually sweet.
Well, there's an old saying, Jack, that we eat first with our eyes. And it's so true, because what we see on the plate absolutely determines our sense of anticipation and enjoyment of the food.
I agree, but what about grey ice cream? Would you eat that?
Ice cream.
So, There's this ice cream. It's grey. It goes from black to almost like a dirty white. There are 6 different flavours, so 6 different colours. And it's been put together by a Brazilian artist to challenge our taste buds. And naturally, it's called grayscale.
Nice one. Well, you know how I love a challenge for the grey matter, Jack.
That's right, the grey.
So I reckon working out the flavour of a grey ice cream is not so much gelati for geriatrics as food for thought.
Boom, boom.
Women's health has just scored a big win, in Victoria at least, with a new agreement between the unions and the state government, Jack.
That's right, Jo. So this agreement offers support and entitlements to women facing menstrual, menopause and fertility issues, and it entitles them to an extra 5 days of leave per year. I just think that is so important, don't you?
Absolutely. Chronic and consistent pain, when it really does affect a woman's ability to function at work, has to be supported. So that's the reproductive health side of things, Jack. But the other great inclusion is supporting financial security and financial equality, because it's extending superannuation on maternity leave.
Jo, I couldn't agree more. Women need all the support in the world, especially when they're pregnant. And we recently met doula Vanessa Salerno. Now, she's been the support crew to expectant mum Victoria, who's recently given birth to a beautiful baby girl, Francesca.
I've got 2 pairs. Can I put 2 pairs?
Yeah,
in?
perfect.
Okay, perfect.
You know, I love getting that call when someone's newly pregnant. I also love the aspect of obviously watching life come into the world and literally watching transformation happen in that room.
So you're going to bring a small bag that's just for the birth space. So
but I will.
Yes.
I think a midwife is there essentially to do their job medically and make sure that you're okay and the baby's okay, and it's very medical. But there's this emotional layer that Vanessa brings into the birth space, and I believe that that is really important, to have that emotional support rather than just being told that you're 5 centimetres and you're okay and this and that. I think she will really coach me to get me to the end goal.
Victoria's birth plan was to have an elective caesarean. We did a lot of preparation during her pregnancy with a lot of education and facts and things like that for her mental health, that this is what she would like to do. But as plans change, she went into spontaneous labour.
And the baby goes in there?
Yeah. You know, we laughed and joked that this was, you know, coming earlier than expected. And so we spoke very much when we got to the hospital of what her needs and her desires were to continue, which way she wanted to birth.
We know that there's a lot of misinformation out, particularly in relation to health. And it's true certainly for pregnancy and childbirth. A lot of misinformation about being scared about caesarean section or scared about induction of birth or tearing during birthing process. And of course, all of those things, whilst they may be a reality, aren't the norm for a lot of women. So having that reassuring, calming voice to say what you're experiencing at the moment is normal is really imperative.
Victoria did amazing. It's so exciting to be on the other end now to tell you the story of the birth of Francesca. She was so calm. It was like, yep, she's ready. We're ready to meet this baby girl.
Hi.
There was a moment during birth, and I remember watching Victoria, and a lot of emotion, and I'm gonna get crying. Anyway, a lot of emotion came up, and I knew that I needed to keep her calm, and obviously we do a lot of breath work, even in an elective caesarean, so very much focusing on her breath, and I knew we needed to play some music, so I pulled out my phone and played it right next to her ear.
Waking up, I ended up going into spontaneous labour. That was for 4 hours, and then I ended up in a C-section. That was my birth plan, so we stuck to it. My daughter came out and she wasn't breathing too well, so she ended up going to special care for 12 hours. My doula and my OB, so Jo and Vanessa, did not leave my side until she came out of special care at 7 p.m. that night. And I think that was really vital for my mental health, to go see her and be able to hold her for the first time.
Here you go. Thank you. When you have a baby, your life changes. You know, you watch a couple walk in as they are, and they leave completely different. And this is their most vulnerable time in their life as they become parents. And to be by their side, I'm the first one, besides their obstetrician, to meet their baby.
Come on, little chicken.
How's she going with nappy changes?
She loves them.
Is she?
Oh, sorry.
You know, the first 2 weeks, especially coming home, was a little bit hard on me. So I'd call her and I'd ask her questions like, how much do I feed her? Is her poo the right colour? Just any mother question that I had or any mental health question that I had that I could call upon her was amazing. She would check in every day to make sure I was mentally doing okay, and she would check in on the baby every day as well.
You know, there's so many times, and I remember when I had my children that I was like, I go home, you take the baby home, you're like, now what do I do? And having that person is important to be able to almost like bounce off. That is not a friend, that's not family that they come with. It should look like this.
Oh, yeah.
We laugh and joke when we say sleep when the baby's sleeping. We know that doesn't ever happen. But making sure what that looks like and helping them each step, each week, and understanding not only what's happening with baby, but it's also happening with mum.
A lot of women do it alone and a lot of women just do it with their husband, and I don't know how, because having Vanessa has been life-changing for me.
Little nut brown hair. Who was going to bed? To be part of someone's birth experience is an absolute honour, and I say this all the time. It's a blessing. I thank them for welcoming me into their space, and to then look back and go, oh my goodness, I was part of that. He tumbled upside down and reached up to the tree trunk with his feet.
If I was to do it again and get pregnant, I would not. She'd be there. She would have to be a part of that journey, because having her there as that extra support person is vital.
Did you see the pictures? When it comes to my heritage and being a doula, and I think when I have conversations with my mum and we talk about it, how she's proud. I think it's something that's brought heritage back to Australia. I think it's important, and she remembers as a little girl, and now I'm creating that for my little girls.
You know, whenever I step out in an outfit that I really love, or I feel particularly well put together, like I'm having
You always look great.
Good hair day, that really matters for me. You know, it just changes the way you go about your day, doesn't it? It just lifts your confidence as you go out into the world.
I agree. I think the way we look can really boost our happiness. I don't think it's shallow or vain, and university researchers from Canada agree. They say a person's overall appearance, if they're happy with it, can actually boost their self-worth and happiness.
But I think it's really important to think about what actually makes you look good, and that, I think, is coming from the inside. What feels good, you look good, right? And it's really important that we approach that with self-compassion and real, love for self, and not comparing ourselves to the photoshopped, unattainable images that we are presented with.
And you and I have both got young daughters, and it's so important that we teach them, as you say, about self-love and self-care before we look at the things on the outside. And I also think it's really important to keep it age appropriate. And one thing that's definitely concerning for both of us is this new fad of tween skincare. And a lot of this they're putting on young skin. It's adult skincare, and it's stuff they definitely don't need.
So a tween and a teen have perfect skin. They've got all the collagen and all the elastin that we want. So they should be using at tweens and teens age from 10 onwards, a good skincare regime. So using a facial cleanser, very gentle, non-fragranced, non-soap based twice a day, and as well as a moisturiser. And the most important is, of course, a sunscreen. That's all they need. The products that they are using, though, are ones that are so unnecessary in this age group. So that includes retinols, which is a vitamin A product, peptides, eye creams. They're as well using scrubs that are very harsh and drying and damaging to young skin. It's because of this movement of, on TikTok, get ready with me, and really trying to follow their influences to do things to their skin, use products on their skin. So when they're using products that are really harsh and actually unnecessary, at worst we see dryness of the skin and a little bit of irritation. If, however, they have eczema or a predisposition already to sensitive skin, then they'll get full-blown eczema and they'll get really red, raw, inflamed skin. I'm seeing it more and more. So I'd see a couple of cases at least every couple of days, and I'm seeing it in younger kids. So initially it was in 12 to 14-year-olds, and now it wouldn't be uncommon for an 8-year-old to start using these products and getting reactions. This epidemic or this movement should actually be leaned into, and we should take it as a positive so that we can start talking to our kids about good skincare and what to look out for in terms of marketing, and not listening to everything that you see on TikTok as being gospel truth. And build it into routine so it will be continued and sustainable. So you brush your teeth twice a day, you wash your face twice a day, and then you moisturise twice a day. And then on top, before you go out to your day, a sunscreen. And in fact, sunscreens now are in the cosmetic space, and this is something that you can go to Mecca and Sephora and explore with your child so that you can find the right sunscreen that they like, that might have added ingredients such as self-tanning drops, for instance, that they might like, or has a tint to it. And these are all things to be encouraged, because use of sunscreen should be daily and regular.
The saying goes, blondes have more fun. And while I don't know if that's entirely true, one thing I know from the blondes in my life is that those gorgeous locks can sometimes come at a cost. And that's dry and brittle hair that comes from years of colour treatments. So the challenge is how to get that soft and silky shine like mine. The John Frieda Blonde Plus repair system is made specifically for the needs of blonde hair damaged through heat styling and bleaching. When following the 3-step process, blonde hair is visibly repaired in just one use, resulting in 2 times stronger and 2 times brighter blonde locks. Start with the pre-shampoo, which transforms hair in just 1 minute. It begins the repair process by building new hydro bonds directly at the hair fibre. These create a protective barrier that minimises hair fibre swelling and lock in moisture. Step 2 is the Blonde Plus Repair Shampoo, which gently cleanses the hair and adds shine, while also strengthening the hair fibres, protecting it from future damage. In this hair care trilogy, the last stage is the Blonde Plus Repair Conditioner. This replaces moisture for softer and smoother hair. Happiness is a good hair day, and for the blondes in the past who have either chosen hair colour or hair health, it's nice to know that there are plenty of happy days ahead.
Well, the cold weather is here, and with it, the usual warnings around colds and flus that we usually get at this time of year. But Dr. Nick, I understand that the flu season is tipped to hit earlier and harder this year.
Yeah, well, both the USA and Europe experienced a fast-tracked and severe flu season, and numbers have already started rising here in Australia. So we reckon the peak's going to be in June, which is a couple of months earlier than usual.
So make sure you book your vax, which is really your best defence. But I understand that vaccination numbers are down, so I wonder, is there still some vaccination fatigue?
Yeah, well, it's true, Joe. People, we've had a lot of jabs, but it remains true that vaccination is your #1 way of protecting yourself, your family and your workplace this winter.
When you have the flu, you know it. It's much more than the common cold. It's caused by the influenza virus, and you can get it by breathing in tiny droplets from coughs or sneezes from someone else who has the influenza virus. If you touch a surface that has the virus on it and then touch your face, it can still be transferred, which is why it's so important to wash your hands a lot. Fever and chills are typical symptoms, along with a cough, runny nose, sore throat, body aches and fatigue. These symptoms generally last 3 to 7 days, but a cough or the general feeling of being unwell can last up to several weeks. The flu is also contagious, so please stay at home and rest. Your immunity is strongest and most effective 3 to 4 months after being vaccinated. With the flu season running from June to September, get your flu vax around April or May. You can get the COVID vax and the flu vax at the same time. But while the flu vax doesn't protect against COVID-19, it does reduce the risk of influenza, which leads to thousands of hospitalisations each year. All flu vaccines in Australia are inactive, which means that it doesn't contain the live virus, so you can't catch the flu from the vaccine.
The arrival of winter prompts me to think about one thing: health. That is, staying healthy, avoiding catching a cold or getting the flu, and what I can do to fend off sickness. Bioceuticals Armour Force Daily Protect is an immune champion, supporting the immune system to fight illness and help stimulate a healthy immune system response all year round. With support top of mind, the comprehensive formula contains vitamin C and vitamin D, as well as zinc and selenium to support healthy immune system function. Plus, scientifically studied Wellmune to assist in reducing the duration of the common cold. Simply take 2 tablets once a day, all year round, to support your immune system. There are many wonderful things about winter. Cooking a hearty meal, curling up with a book, and a bit of forward thinking when it comes to your health means you have a better chance of enjoying all this winter has to offer.
Darcy, you and I are both summer people. We know that, but there are some positive effects to winter. I think there's snow. I like the snow, and red wine in front of the fire.
I like winter for junior sport, getting out, particularly junior footy in our households, Big Jack, or walking our dog. Dennis for Beck and I has been the start of our day forever. But I have to share, we've spoken a lot about Dennis, who we love, our blue stat. We lost him over Easter, Jack, and there has been more tears in our house than I can remember over any incident ever. So our life has changed dramatically, but the starts of the day with Dennis were a real highlight.
A beautiful dog. And we're always about positive ageing and how to stay happy and healthy here at the House of Wellness. And the same goes for our pets. And it turns out when it comes to our dogs, if they've got a companion, they live a healthier and longer life.
Really fascinating, this to me, Jack, isn't it? Giving our dogs and our pets that social activity themselves is the key to a long, healthy life, more so than an owner's wealth or status at all. So socialising our dogs gives them a really healthy and happy start to their life.
It's a win-win, isn't it, Darcy? Both for humans and for our pets. And speaking of great duos, here's Zoe with another perfect pair, oysters and grapefruit.
They're not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, oysters are the ultimate indulgence, delivering a salty taste just like the ocean. And the pink grapefruit salsa I'm adding to them today will give the dish an extra kick of flavour. First up, I'm finely dicing the salsa ingredients. Pink grapefruit is the hero. The sweet citrus cancels out some of the oyster's saltiness. I'm adding chilli to challenge the gentle flavours of the salsa. Cucumber and coriander round out the ingredients. And coconut water brings all the fresh flavours together. Each oyster is a unique product of its environment. You'll never get 2 of them the same. They're power packs of health too, full of zinc and selenium. I'm not doing anything with the oysters. Raw is the way to go. The shell acts as a perfect serving bowl, so it's just a matter of topping with salsa. There is so much fabulous flavour happening here. It's easy to see why oysters are the starting point of any great eating experience. Cheers. Oh, shucking great. Get Nourished is brought to you by Go Healthy. Go Oyster plus zinc 1 a day. Supporting testosterone levels, sperm health and reproductive system health in healthy males. It feels good to go healthy.
Well, we're all believers of living the best we can at every stage of life and in every weather. That's right. That's right. And in May, we're all being asked to walk 30 minutes a day for 30 days.
I know I sound like a broken record, Joe, but staying physically active really is the key to long-term health, as well as keeping our memories sharp, along with things like doing puzzles, learning music, staying socially connected as well.
Yes, and cleaning your teeth with the opposite hand. I'm really banking on that working. I do that every day.
And Joe, we just heard how staying socially connected is really the key to health and happiness for our dogs and also for us humans as well.
Yeah, you're spot on, Das, because social connectedness is really good for depression and stress, and those are both contributors to memory problems, so great to stay socially connected.
For me, early to bed, early to rise, bit of exercise sprinkled in, that's all it takes.
Well, Jack, you make that sound so happy and easy and with a smile on your face too, which I love. So on that very positive note, that's all we've got time for. Thanks to Dr. Nick Carr, to Jacqui Felgate and to Joe Stanley.
Make sure you check out House of Wellness Radio every Sunday with Luke Hines and Joel Quigley.
Thanks to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. It's bye for now.